Alright everyone, another Gaza update to start the day here. By the way, if I'm not playing at my high energy A game, I didn't get a whole lot of sleep last night. That's partially due to this little furry creature here. She looks very happy with herself. This is basically how she holds me at night as well. Clingy kitty. That's definitely her moniker. Anyway, in unfortunate news, the Israeli government is now moving forward with the next steps of the incursion into Gaza. Having seized most of the region, they're still fighting Hamas. Hamas is still operative there, but they've got a huge ground invasion going on with tanks and APCs and everything else, still bombing things. They've moved to the next step. The problem is the next step gets really, really tricky. Apparently, they've decided to wipe out the Hamas tunnel network. Now, this would definitely help to stop Hamas, because without their tunnel network, moving things around, smuggling, moving people, it becomes a lot more difficult. The problem is that when we think of a tunnel network, we're thinking, okay, you have an escape tunnel built from your house to your barn, or something like that. The problem is that this tunnel network is bigger than most large city metro projects and encompasses much of what is the Gaza Strip. It's not even fully understood. Like in order to map it, it would take months, apparently. The Israelis are warning that that's how long it'll take. This may be just a threat. They're threatening to flood the tunnel network, and then it'll take an extended period of time to do so. The problem is that you will cause the soil underneath all of the cities in the Gaza Strip to sink, collapsing civilians' homes, because apparently the tunnels go under their homes too. So this is not a network where a tunnel goes from point A across the city to point B, sort of again like a tunnel network you would have for rail lines or something like that. That's not how it operates. It's effectively a link up between all of the buildings' foundations. You will destroy most of those buildings in the process by underwhelming them, by destabilizing the soil should you flood the tunnel network. Then they are planning to do it with water. They're also blaming the UN and other groups and saying, well, there's not enough aid coming in. If the Palestinians get fucked up, it's because you fucked them up. Again, optically speaking, strategically speaking, it's a good idea for Israel because Hamas no longer has a tunnel network to work with. Without their tunnel network, they can't fight on the same level. Their munitions will get ruined by seawater, and that's that. Hamas will be set back to stage one as far as organization. And it's not just tunnels either. There are bunkers that are connected to it. It connects to buildings' basements and sub-basements, I believe, in some cases. There's a huge hive of tunnels underneath most of Gaza Strip. You're effectively going to destroy the Gaza Strip in the process of doing this. There won't be a Gaza anymore. The buildings that haven't already been shelled are going to collapse, mostly, and you're going to get to see it. You're going to see those buildings coming down one by one. Optically speaking, well, strategically it makes sense. This is like, okay, fuck Hamas, we've had enough, we're tired of this shit. Optically speaking, people are going to be watching live streams of chunks of city disappearing as the substructures underneath the buildings are completely eroded away by salt water. I would note that salt water doesn't play kindly with cement as well. That's probably why they're planning to use it. They don't really have a stable freshwater supply to flood the tunnels with. They're going to have to drain it off the ocean. The world is already in some degree of outcry over them planning to do this. Imagine when it begins. Optically, I think Israel has already lost this war. You can claim that you're justified in destroying Hamas, and yeah, but there are complications with that. Namely, that Hamas blends in with a very large civilian population in a very small land area. It's not clear that it'll even work. I mean, you can't flood the tunnels permanently, I would assume. Do the Israelis intend to install pumps offshore and then just perpetually pump the tunnels, keep them filled with water? Because then you're definitely going to have to forcibly relocate the population of Gaza, more or less, because most of it will sink into the ground, into its own fucking footprint. So much has been excavated over time, you're going to end up with cities that have ruts running through them that are 20 feet deep, and sinkholes everywhere and crazy shit like this. I mean, it'll do more damage than the IDF's bombing campaign in a shorter period of time probably as well. There's also the problem that captives could be down there. Civilians could be down there. What happens when some captive from Myanmar or something like that, their bloated body floats out of one of the tunnels that you're filling with water and ends up, rotting in the basement of somebody's home. And then they record that and put it on the internet. Wars are no longer fought solely on the battlefield. They're fought mostly at this point, I think, in public dialogue more than anything. Propaganda and so forth have always played a role. Psyops and subversion, infiltration and so forth. That's old hat. But the idea of the public at large being full participants in war, as far as the diplomatic and sort of communicative side of it, definitely plays a role. There's a reason why there are now dedicated teams working. This was announced the other day, specifically for Meta on Insta and Facebook, that are dedicated solely to monitoring information with regards to what's happening in the wars that are going on in Ukraine v. Russia and Hamas v. the IDF, namely. And there's a reason why there are large dedicated teams that are working to counter misinfo, which means both countering actual misinfo and censoring info that's simply inconvenient on behalf of one entity or another. I think in the Ukraine conflict, it's more clear which side they side with than in the Gaza conflict. But I mean, it's rather mysterious. I mean, the Israelis effectively intend to destroy all of Gaza, annex it. Where are the people they're supposed to go? The international community shouldn't, by the way, have to perpetually prop up several million people now, should it? There's a limited amount of aid to go around. We've expended a lot of our coffers on Ukraine already. We're still propping up half of East Africa at the moment with grain shipments. What the fuck more can we possibly do? It's the American man's burden, I suppose, all over again. We're supposed to pay for all of this shit when the skinflint Euros, of course, have a difficulty allocating the money in some cases. France tends to be gregarious, and that's because they've become decadent and because they want political influence. But people are beginning to grumble. Eventually, the United States may have to stand alone in funding a number of proxy wars at the same time, while our own domestic population can barely buy groceries. Again, it's not a matter of what's right or wrong, it's a matter of what you can do. It's a matter of what's pragmatic. Is it pragmatic for Israel, for example, to destroy the entire Gaza Strip? I would answer maybe not. I don't see a pragmatic alternative. Effectively displacing the whole population of Gaza and the remnant population in the West Bank may be the only way to have peace, but then you've effectively dispossessed people of their traditional homeland, effectively adjacent to genocide. Then you get more people grumbling. I don't see a way out of the situation that doesn't involve mass carnage and mass destruction, effectively. By the way, isn't leveling a number of cities by flooding their substructures, I mean, wouldn't it be easier to just use a nuke? Yeah, just get the people out and say, okay, we're blowing the city, so everyone's got 72 hours to get to the outside of the exclusion zone, and then we're detonating the big one. I mean, it would be cheaper probably too, ironically enough. I guess they can't do that because of the nuclear ambiguity sort of strategy, but it's becoming a really weird situation where Israel really has gone all in. They don't really have a reason to pull back at this point because, I mean, they've already gone several red lines too far for most of the world's population. They can count on the U.S. backing to be perpetual, but the U.S. can't feed all of Palestine as well as arm Ukraine, as well as feed the Ethiopian famine kids and all of these other things that we do while we have run out of money. We're broke as a nation. And I think that people aren't quite realizing that. That's point number one. And point number two, again, you're going to kill a lot of civilians and destroy most people's homes in Gaza by using this strategy. That's about all. Peace out.